Hello, thank you for listening to the Moist Boys Reviews. This is Josh. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about the Anchor.fm app. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to the Moist Boys Views. This is Josh. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about Just Mercy, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, written by Destin Daniel Cretton, Andrew Lanham, based on the nonfiction book Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. You might recognize this book as the one that caused the young adult world to explode in the second half of last year. So I guess it comes with a little bit of infamy coming into this season. It was released in select markets last year, but I just caught up with it this year in a wide release. So the film follows the real-life story of Brian Stevenson, portrayed by Michael B. Jordan, who is a civil rights attorney in the South in the late 80s. This film takes place primarily between 1987 and 1990. In the film, he goes to on to represent several inmates that are on death row. Primarily Anthony Ray Hinton, portrayed by O'Shea Jackson Jr., Herbert Richardson, played by Rob Morgan, and Jamie Foxx as Walter McMillan, who is the kind of the primary focus of this film. Early on, Michael B. Jordan's character realizes that all of the people that are on death row maybe don't deserve to be there, either through innocence or through circumstances beyond their control. O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character, for instance, was convicted primarily because the arresting sheriff that talked to him said that he looked guilty. And in Jamie Foxx's case, he was essentially convicted on testimony by someone that probably was not even in the area at the time. Positives for this film. Destin Daniel Cretton has a very naturalistic shooting style that I think can counteract some of the maybe some of the stodginess that you might see in a typical courtroom drama. I think for the most part he counteracts that pretty well here. There are a few times when you kind of get into scenes that you've seen many times before and things like this. But the film is definitely buoyed by the fact that it is based on a true story. And that kind of gives it a little more weight than it might otherwise have. Tim Blake Nelson plays the witness in Jamie Foxx's trial that may or may not be as forthcoming as he otherwise should be. Rafe Spall plays the district attorney who wants to continue keeping Jamie Foxx's character locked up in prison despite a lack of evidence. And Brie Larson plays Ava Ainsley, who is kind of the assistant to Michael B. Jordan's character. Everyone does a fine job acting here. There are several times when Jamie Foxx's character kind of gets into a little maybe filmic area where it's maybe not as believable as during other times. His performance kind of fluctuates between being believable and very honest and truthful, and also kind of making you remember that you're watching a movie. I think the big runaway star here for me, at least personally, was Rob Morgan, who you might recognize from pretty much every Netflix original series and movie that's come out over the last couple years. He is starred in a lot of the Marvel shows when those were on Netflix. He was also one of the stars of Mudbound from a couple of years ago. His performance is really strong, and he kind of has one of the central emotional moments in the film. Michael B. Jordan also turns in a good performance. I would say, excluding the courtroom scenes, which can get a little stodgy and a little maybe stale if you've seen any other courtroom dramas before. Overall, I think this movie is fine. It does not feel its 2 hour and 17-minute runtime, so that is good. Sometimes movies can overstay their welcome. If you listen to my Bad Boys for Life review, you will recognize that complaint there. That movie felt much too long for what we got. So overall, I would give Just Mercy 7 Clooney's out of 10. I think it's a good film, or a fine film, buoyed by the fact that it is based on a true story, and you get to see some of the real life characters at the end of the film with some of their title cards telling you what happened to them. I think maybe without that knowledge that it is a true film, it would not have had the same impact. Thank you for listening to the Moist Boys Reviews. Please check out the older reviews. If there are any films that I've reviewed that you want a longer episode on, please shoot in an email, moistboyspodcast@gmail.com, or you can contact us on Twitter @moistboyspod, also Instagram @moistboyspodcast, to keep up to date on all of the projects we are working on. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time.